I felt frightened. I was afraid because I wanted to make sure it would work out, because it was my first lead, and I knew I didn't really feel like he was my type. I also felt that I didn't have any chemistry with him. Fans thought they could not love Patrick Swayze for years. However, Jennifer Grey, a co-star, had a completely different opinion behind the camera. She wasn't bashful about it either. On the set, tension simmered, tempers erupted, and a painful truth was concealed behind what appeared to be Hollywood glamour. Finally, the true cause of her distaste has surfaced, and it's very different from what we had anticipated. The first is that Jennifer Grey dislikes Red Dawn's Patrick Swayze. The idealized depictions of on-set chemistry that Hollywood occasionally presents are very different from Jennifer Grey's initial meeting with Patrick Swayze. She appeared in the military action drama Red Dawn, which followed a Soviet invasion of the United States in 1984. With roles in movies like Reckless, Grey was still in the early stages of her career at the time. Swayze, meantime, was already starting to establish a reputation for his tough charm and athletic on-screen persona. Grey's first impression of him was anything but positive, even if he was becoming more and more popular. Grey had trouble connecting with him from the first several days of filming. He had a lively side on set, which frequently showed itself as jokes, taunting, and light-hearted acts meant to relieve tension or amuse the crew. But Grey saw this behavior in a different light. His frequent quips, in her opinion, were a sign of immaturity, and she was concerned that he wasn't treating the filmmaking process with the gravity it required. His humor occasionally came across to her as a diversion rather than a source of companionship. Her initial mistrust of his professionalism was reflected in her later interviews. When she called him a joker, she believed that her approach and his were at odds. Although she was committed to concentrating on her performance and taking notes from each scene, she seemed to adopt a more laid-back demeanor. This caused stress for Grey, who was still adjusting to the demands of a big Hollywood production, and was looking for co-stars who were as dedicated to discipline and art as she was. Even while it was first annoying, Grey had to concede that the pranks were frequently harmless despite the conflict. During long, exhausting days of filming in difficult conditions, he would lighten the mood by cracking little jokes on the actors and crew. However, Grey interpreted these incidents as evidence of inconsistency and lack of sincerity in the early phases of their working relationship. She didn't realize until much later that his humor wasn't a reflection of his work ethic, but rather a personality trait that helped him connect with others and diffuse tension. The intensity of the filming setting further damaged their relationship. The players in Red Dawn had to be physically fit, perform emotionally intense roles, and follow challenging choreography. Swayze, who was well known for his commitment to dance and physical training, tackled these tasks with a blend of talent and humor that occasionally came off to Grey as informal or unprofessional. At first, she found it difficult to reconcile his apparent carelessness with the clear talent he brought to his job. Fascinatingly, this early distaste draws attention to a typical occurrence in early Hollywood partnerships. Initial impressions are frequently deceptive. Many performers discover that while their personalities clash under pressure, they eventually grow to respect or even be friends after they have a better understanding of one another's working methods and goals. In the instance of Grey and Swayze, the antics and light-hearted manner that Grey at first disliked were ultimately acknowledged as a component of the charm that won over both co-stars and viewers to Swayze. The second reason is that they both don't want to collaborate once more. Jennifer Grey encountered an unforeseen predicament during the mid-1980s pre-production phase of Dirty Dancing. In addition to his emotional feelings, Grey had work-related worries. Both actors would need to be extremely vulnerable for Dirty Dancing. Intense on-screen chemistry, emotionally charged language, and intricate dancing moves. Grey was concerned that any awkwardness or tension from their prior work together may compromise the film's realism. Because the plot needed Baby and Johnny to have a genuine, passionate bond, she wanted to be completely at ease with her co-star. She hesitated for a minute, balancing her personal concerns with her professional aspirations. at the notion of working with someone she had previously underestimated. The fact that Dirty Dancing was a lower budget movie at the time, and its success was far from assured, added to Grey's reluctance. She had to have faith in her co-star and the rest of the cast and crew to take on the lead role. Even though Swayze was already well known for his charisma and physical appearance, Grey was wary because she still had concerns about his temperament. She sought confidence that the passion and intimacy needed for the job would not be compromised by his funny, prank-filled character. It's interesting to note that her hesitancy also mirrored a larger trend in Hollywood, where performers frequently base their career choices as much on personal relationships as on business opportunities. The comfort and chemistry between performers are important for some films, especially romantic dramas, even though directors and producers may have a specific casting concept. Grey's thoughtful deliberation shows her dedication to her work and her understanding that on-screen realism is reliant on chemistry and trust with a co-star in addition to skill. Third, you'll be surprised to learn what motivates Jennifer Grey and Patrick to collaborate. As previously stated, Jennifer Grey's initial hesitation to collaborate with Patrick, saw on Dirty Dancing, had the potential to ruin what would turn out to be one of the most famous on-screen duos of the 1980s. But the tale of how she finally accepted the part shows that he not only has professionalism and charisma, but also a deep awareness of the subtleties of acting chemistry. Swayze made a conscious effort to persuade Grey that their collaboration this time might be unique and revolutionary, as he was aware that she still harbored reservations about their previous experience on Red Dawn. A private screen test proved to be the pivotal moment. This test, in contrast to a typical audition, was not merely a casting procedure. Rather, it was Swayze's deliberate attempt to show his commitment and suitability as a co-star. Grey had voiced worries about his light-hearted demeanor, which she had previously taken to be immaturity, and she recognized that she needed confirmation that he could accurately and passionately play the part of Johnny Castle. The opportunity to demonstrate his ability to strike a balance between charm, self-control, and emotional depth during the screen test gave him concrete proof that he was the ideal companion for her in the movie. Swayze took a moment to explicitly address the past prior to the screen test. He sincerely apologized to Grey for any stress or anxiety she could have suffered during Red Dawn. He showed professionalism and emotional intelligence by recognizing her feelings, demonstrating that he valued her viewpoint and was prepared to accept responsibility for any resulting conflict. This action paved the way for cooperation and assisted in removing the obstacle of mistrust, demonstrating his commitment to seeing this project through to completion as a collaborative artistic endeavor, as well as a career move. The actual screen test was thoughtfully planned to emphasize the two performers' relationship. Scenes that called for quiet moments of connection, quick glances, the tension of dance sequences, and both physical intimacy and emotional vulnerability were selected. During their performance together, Grey witnessed a change from the sea, who she recalled as a light-hearted trickster, to a dedicated, focused performer who could listen, react, and establish a chemistry that improved both of their performances. A rapport that went beyond acting skill was revealed by the test. It showed a sincere bond that gave Baby and Johnny's relationship a captivating, intense, and real feel. It was enlightening for Grey to see this chemistry in action. She understood that his playfulness and sense of humor did not compromise his professionalism. They gave it praise. Both performers were able to safely explore the emotional range of their characters, thanks to his ability to blend humor and intensity, which made the rehearsal process more dynamic and less rigid. The screen test turned into a life-changing event that demonstrated their collaboration could go beyond previous miscommunications and result in something truly remarkable. Swayze's method also demonstrated his profound comprehension of cooperative action. He understood that ability alone rarely produces on-screen magic. It is based on respect, trust, and emotional openness. In addition to calming Grey's concerns, he established the foundation for a collaborative and transparent working relationship by taking the initiative to apologize and create a screen test that showed their potential. This instance serves as an example of how players can actively influence the dynamics of cooperation, transforming early resistance into a basis for success. The fourth reason is that there is tension on site. Jennifer Grey overcame her initial reluctance to collaborate with Patrick Swayze, but she soon found that Dirty Dancing brought with it a new set of difficulties. After production started, Grey discovered a new side of Swayze that stood in stark contrast to the gregarious, affable actor she had grown to like during their screen test. Although her commitment had convinced her to accept the part, it now caused conflict on the set. Swayze was renowned for being painstaking, working to perfect every gesture, look, and heartbeat. He had an unrelenting dedication to his trade because of his training in dance and theater, and he tackled every scene and practice with an almost obsessive attention. He would insist on exact choreography, demand multiple takes, and practice until even the simplest movements were performed perfectly. Swayze pushed himself and others around him to attain perfection, since it was something he could not compromise on. But Grey worked in a different manner. Despite her professionalism and dedication, she favored a more laid-back style that encouraged spontaneity and organic expression. Swayze's extreme perfectionism frequently made her feel constrained and like she was being closely examined. She occasionally worried that the emotional sincerity she wanted to convey in her performance would be suppressed by the strain to live up to his high expectations. Because of the tension between their methods, rehearsals were sometimes difficult and sometimes exhausting. This tension was especially noticeable during the dance scenes in the movie. Dirty Dancing revolved around dance, and because of his training as a dancer, he saw each step as essential to the narrative. He would repeatedly practice lifts and rotations until they perfectly fit his vision. Despite his skill and ability, Grey occasionally felt overburdened by the concentration on accuracy and the frequent repetition. She was forced out of her comfort zone by the physically taxing routines and the intense nature of Swayze, and she found it difficult to remain at ease in the face of the constant pressure to be flawless. Despite these annoyances, Grey acknowledged that his commitment was rooted in a sincere wish to improve the movie. His focus stemmed from a profound awareness of how crucial chemistry and accuracy were to the success of the story, not from conceit or control. Grey eventually mastered this dynamic by striking a balance between his demands for discipline and her own innate spontaneity. Despite being difficult, the tension eventually improved her performance by making her go deeper both physically and emotionally than she otherwise might have. Off camera, tension occasionally overflowed into confrontational scenes. In interviews, Grey has described how the demands for many takes and the meticulousness of basic motions sometimes left her feeling exhausted. She did, however, add that Swayze's encouragement and dedication to keeping her safe during emotionally charged moments counterbalanced these difficulties. Even though their working methods were different, the performers' shared commitment to making something remarkable brought them together, and this overarching objective served to ease some of the tension. Following the conclusion of Dirty Dancing, Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze's relationship had a new, more contemplative aspect. Their relationships during filming were characterized by a combination of on-screen chemistry, professional devotion, and sometimes friction. Even though they worked closely together, Grey has been open in interviews that she and Swayze did not become close off-screen friends once the film was over. Rather than developing into a personal or social relationship, their closeness remained solely based on their business connection. Both actors gave their all to the movie during production. The intense dance moves and emotionally driven storyline demanded a remarkable level of focus and dedication. Grey's natural spontaneity and Swayze's perfectionism produced a dynamic that, although successful on screen, was difficult to translate into laid-back off-camera friendship. Personal boundaries were upheld and performance remained the primary focus in the cramped High-pressure setting of the set. Although they supported and appreciated each other as co-stars, Grey has observed that the rigor of their job did not encourage the light-hearted camaraderie that occasionally forms between co-stars. Their careers took different turns when the filming was over. Swayze, who was already well known and had a busy career in dance and movies, kept taking on high-profile roles. They drifted apart in a way that is typical in the profession as a result of their hectic schedules and conflicting objectives. Even as Grey managed the opportunities and difficulties of a budding Hollywood career, the actor's camaraderie did not transcend the professional sphere, despite the lasting legacy of Dirty Dancing, underscoring the frequently transactional nature of relationships formed on sets. Grey has openly considered this, stressing that her lack of a personal relationship with Swayze should not be construed as hostility. Conversely, she has conveyed admiration for his skill, professionalism, and work ethic. It was precisely because they kept a professional focus and balanced their disparate temperaments to produce performances that were captivating, emotionally evocative, and believable that their collaboration on screen was effective. She argues that friendship off-screen is not always a requirement for on-screen chemistry, highlighting the complex dynamics of Hollywood partnerships. It's interesting to note that this dynamic reflects a larger trend seen in the motion picture business. On-screen collaborations might be legendary and memorable, while off-screen interactions can be minimal. A professional rather than a personal relationship is frequently required due to the demands of filming, hectic scheduling, and the emotional work involved in some parts. This reality is best illustrated by Grey and the post-filming distance. Though their friendship was mostly isolated inside the framework of their job, they collaborated to create cinematic magic. Even though they weren't close off-screen, Grey has admitted that seeing them together while filming made an impression. As a co-star, she appreciated his commitment, self-control, and compassion, characteristics that improved everyone's performance. The success of the movie and the importance of respect for one another in team settings were bolstered by Swayze's ability to remain professional despite Grey's more emotive and instinctive style. The significance of this professional relationship is not lessened by the lack of a personal bond. Indeed, it demonstrates how a partnership can be productive and courteous without encroaching on personal life. How do you feel about Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze's argument? Please share your thoughts in the space provided below. We hope this video has been useful to you. If you enjoy it, remember to subscribe to the channel, share it, and give a like. I appreciate you viewing, and I hope to see you in the upcoming videos. Farewell.